Good day, Inderes TV viewers and listeners. Aliaxis published its binding offer for all Uponor shares. Today I'm interviewing Aliaxis CEO Erik Olsen. Erik, you announced the binding offer for Uponor shares. I think it was €25.75 per share. What has changed since the non-binding offer in April where we talked the last time?
Well, it's a very different situation right now. First of all, we own 20% of the company right now. We're the number 2 shareholder in Uponor. Secondly, today we're making a formal binding offer. On April 17th, what we were doing was basically expressing our intention in a transparent way to shareholders that we were looking to make an offer. But there was no formal offer. Today, the formal offer, and it's open to all Uponor shareholders.
Why did you raise the binding offer 75 cents?
Well, we wanted to make an additional effort to. We were already able to convince a significant number of sophisticated, large institutional investors with our offer at 25 euros, our intention statement at 25 euros. And we thought, okay, let's just make an additional effort to really make sure we get over 50%.
And I assume you have financing secured?
Yes, financing is secured, which is not necessarily easy in the current environment. And it speaks to the fact that we're an investment grade company and we were able to get the financing together to be able to make this offer.
Exactly. Uponor is streamlining its operation, for example, here in Finland in this difficult economic environment, resulting in possible reductions in many positions. If Uponor would become part of Aliaxis, how would you change the operations or invest in Uponor?
Well, it's not for me to speak right now because I don't know the specifics. What I can say is I think they have a good management team, and I'm sure they're making good decisions within the context of Uponor as a standalone company. I think what would be different as a combination with Aliaxis is we'd come with a stronger effort in the Nordics overall, and that would certainly change that calculus. We would also be looking to invest significantly more in R&D, and there's already a great basis of R&D that exists in the Nordics for Uponor, and we'd be looking to build on that. So it's hard to compare what they're doing on a standalone basis. And it's not really, I don't have the specifics of those different projects, but I can say with us, we'd be looking to grow employment, certainly.
Okay. You said in the webcast that Uponor has limited growth possibilities, if I heard correct. Aliaxis is paying approximately an EV/EBIT multiple of 12 for Uponor shares, maybe around that. What kind of synergies you expect from Uponor takeover?
Well, there's a few different pockets of synergies. And, sometimes you think of these big companies that come together, it's to close plants or it's to consolidate the operation. That's not what this is about at all. What's interesting is what Uponor does, we don't do. And what we do, they don't do.
Okay.
But we sell to kind of the similar building industry. So we can bring a more complete solution through change. So markets where we are not, for instance, India, take a big market like India, which has an enormous potential. On their own, it's going to be very difficult for Uponor to go into India on their own. We're the number 2 player in India overall. Think of just the potential alone in India. And there's all the other markets around the world where Aliaxis is. And on the other side as well, what Uponor does well is specification sales, going in and specifying specific designs. We're more a distributor model. So combining both a strong specification sales and distributor model makes really a very strong company. All that adds up to growth-oriented synergies.
So you are looking to accelerate Uponor growth in the future.
Right. Yeah. Opening up new avenues for growth that really they're going to have trouble getting to on their own.
Yeah. I think you mentioned also in the webcast that with this offer of €25.75, you already give quite much synergies to present shareholders who sell their shares. So what value there is for Aliaxis?
Well, I think it's a fair split of the benefit. You bring these two companies together, they generate additional value, and this is a unique opportunity for Uponor shareholders to benefit from a portion of that value being created overall. So there's a part for Aliaxis shareholders and a part for Uponor shareholders.
Okay. Uponor board and the biggest shareholder, Oras Invest, was not delighted of your offer, and they're seeking other strategic options for Uponor. How do you plan to proceed with Oras?
Well, there's two different things, and I think it's important to separate the two, and you mixed them together in your question, Oras Invest and the board of Uponor. The board of Uponor has a fiduciary duty responsible for all the shareholders of Uponor. Oras Invest is a investor in the company, and they have two different roles in the story. As for the board of Uponor, they put out a statement saying that they were looking for strategic alternatives or something like that, without being specific about it. My understanding, as I said in the speech, was they're just looking for some other bidder to come in. I feel relatively comfortable about all that, given the fact that I think the synergies that we have, that we've looked at very closely, are far above the synergies that any other potential strategic partner would have. Goes to where I started my presentation today, that what the fundamental point in this overall story is that these companies belong together. And because they belong together, that generates value, and the Uponor shareholders can capture it. I think there's going to be a hard time finding a equivalently good strategic fit.
Tender offer has quite low acceptance threshold of 50%. Assuming that you get over 50% of shares, but Oras Invest does not much, are you happy being majority owner in a public listed company?
Yeah.
Oras as a minor.
But that's part of the formal binding commitment. So basically, just to understand what we're doing today, we're putting out a binding commitment that if we get over 50%, say 51% in the example of your question, we are committed to taking up those shares and managing Uponor for the benefit of all shareholders in that standpoint, not just the 51% shareholder. We have a fiduciary duty to manage, and the opportunities are significant for Uponor in that case, taking great Uponor products and taking them into markets all around the world. Sorry, if I could just, we think that scenario is a more profitable, more successful Uponor than it is on a standalone basis.
So you said previously you're happy with the management, but you indicate that you're not happy with the present owners of Uponor. Am I correct?
No, I wouldn't say that. I think I think the present owners of Uponor are the shareholders, and we're giving this opportunity there. And I think we have a lot of respect for those shareholders, and we're making this offer to them.
Exactly. Lastly, what are the next steps when you expect to complete this offer?
Well, we expect to complete by Q4, and there's a number of formalities and documents that have to be filed and approved by the Finnish financial authority. So there's a number of formal steps that need to go through. But the big element is getting formal competition sign-off from the EU and from the U.S. Competition Authority. And that's a process that takes several months. We expect to be completed with all that and able to finalize in the early part of Q4.
But as we talked the last time, you don't expect any problems with this competitive issue?
No, because if you look at our businesses, we don't really compete. We're in the same space, but doing complementary things. What they do, we don't do, and what they do. And the only thing we have similar is infrastructure, and they're predominantly in infrastructure in the Nordics, where we aren't at all. So even in the thing we do similarly, we're not in the same markets.
Thanks, Erik, for the interview.
Thank you very much. Pleasure to see you again.